Now, I'm very excited on my next edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio and also my YouTube channel. My guest is a fantastically talented radio and TV broadcaster. She is the fantastic Michelle Ackerley. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, lovely to be here. Nice to see you.
Now, obviously, life at the moment is very strange for us all. How are you coping with lockdown? How have you found it?
You know what? It's been a really weird time, a real roller coaster of emotions, actually. I think at the start of lockdown, I didn't really know what to expect. I think we all didn't know what to expect. And I was trying to find the positives from it. I almost used it as a time of saying to myself, right, I'm going to set all these goals. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to be healthy eating. I'm going to reorganize my wardrobe. I literally made a list as long as my arm of all these things that I was going to do. And then come like week 3, week 4, I still haven't done any of those things. And then it was kind of the fear of it all set in. And, I feel like I was going through all these different emotions of feeling stressed, feeling anxious, feeling quite down as well, just about the whole thing and the magnitude of the situation. And now I feel like I'm at a different phase, which is acceptance of the situation and actually starting to get my head around it and find a new normal, find a new routine, and accepting that things are going to be different. And there are going to be days that actually I don't feel that great, and days where I feel really pumped up, ready to go and want to change the world. And actually just accepting the fact that this is taking everybody on a bit of a roller coaster, and you've just kind of got to accept that and go with it, really.
I mean, the thing is, obviously, you have to be so careful looking after your mental health, your physical health, because, it's so easy to lose sight of it. I mean, I heard someone use the phrase, the corona coaster is what we're all riding at the moment, which I love that phrase. I think that's fantastic. But yeah, you really have to look after yourself, because it is so easy just to slip into kind of doing nothing and just sort of, getting a bit, sort of struggling with the depression and stuff like that. It's so easy to fall into that category.
It's so true, Matthew, honestly. And I've had days where I've actually felt really uplifted because, there's so many positive things that we've learned about society through this time. The kindness that people have shown each other has been really heartwarming. The clap for carers on Thursday nights, just the small acts of kindness that neighbours are doing, even people speaking to their neighbours more than they normally should or would. So things like that have been lovely to see and lovely to be a part of, and really fill you up and make you feel really happy. And you really hope that actually coming out of this, that will continue. And on those days, I feel so happy, as I said, uplifted. But then there are other times when actually, I wake up and find it hard to keep that routine going, keep that energy going. And at the end of the day, with like a lot of other people, the kind of work routine is very different. There's things that I've been doing during lockdown with my presenting and radio, which has been fantastic. And that's what's kept me going as well, because you're able to connect with other people and find out how other people are feeling. And then there are other days where it's kind of like, well, you don't know what's going to happen next. There's this work that you had planned. I do a lot of traveling within my work, and there's work that's obviously involved travel that at the minute it's just kind of on pause because we don't know what's going to happen next. And obviously we all need to be safe. So I've very much almost been finding kind of new ways to try and, as you said, keep my mental well-being, tip top and feeling healthy in that respect. And I tell you what, I've become obsessed with jigsaw puzzles, Matthew. I've got one in the corner there that I'm just looking at. It's literally, I find it so therapeutic. It's really been like calming me down. And I've now under my table over there got 6 different boxes of jigsaw puzzles. I never actually thought I'd become such a fan. So anytime I'm starting to feel a bit more stressed, it's like, right, get the jigsaw puzzle out and let's just, because it really pairs you back. Do you know what I mean? You've got to kind of take some time out and really focus and just be concentrating on that singular thing, which before this whole lockdown situation, you would never find me doing stuff like that. I'd always be manic, thinking I've got to go here, there and everywhere. I've got to pack for this, that and the other. So I think and I'm sure it's the same with you and a lot of people, we've definitely learned a lot about ourselves throughout this situation, which, I'm going to definitely take as a positive and a real learning curve at that.
Now, you've been obviously very lucky because you've been able to continue with some of your work. And one of those projects is obviously your radio show on 5 Live. So that must be so good that you're still able to do things like that from either going into the studio or working from home, however it works for you.
Absolutely, and it's been so interesting as well, because we've had to learn how to broadcast in a very different way with radio for 5 Live. It's been really interesting, because I was used to, I started doing 5 Live earlier this year, so it's still relatively new to me. It's a new kind of discipline, which I find fascinating. And when I first started doing 5 Live, the show, I was doing that with Chris Warburton, and that was up in Salford Keys. And obviously we'd be in the same studio because you're co-hosting, so you kind of have that rapport. If I was doing an interview or vice versa, you could give each other the nod of, do you want to come in here and get involved, or do you know what I mean? Yeah, you could kind of, and you just can judge each other's body language on what you're talking about. Whereas now I've done the breakfast show with Chris, and I do sometimes I do the evening show, which is from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. With the breakfast show with Chris, it's been interesting because I'm based down in London, so I've been doing my section of the show, even though it's a double-headed show, remotely. So I see, almost like Zoom, I see him kind of on a screen. So he'll do his bits and I'll do my bits, but there's almost that slight delay. So you pause, and then you kind of waiting to see if they say something. But also it's radio. It's kind of different when you're doing television. If you're pausing, the audience has still got something to look at, so you're a bit more distracted if there's those gaps. Whereas when it's radio, you're just listening to, you're listening to someone's voice. So it's been really interesting, kind of getting used to that new system where you're very much together in a show, but actually you're separate. So I do feel like I'm learning new skills. And also, especially doing radio, as you know, it gives you that opportunity to really connect with other people. And, you could be going into the studio one day and be feeling one way about a particular thing, and you can really just gain perspective, be uplifted, or even frustrated by a conversation that's going on, which is all, you really feel like you're in something together with people. So you're right. I do feel lucky that I've been able to do that throughout lockdown, and be in an environment where you're very much reacting to what is going on. And as we know, it's changing every single day, isn't it? So that has been really good.
Now, obviously, you started out in TV, and you see, the good thing with your career, I imagine, for you, is that you get to do different things. You don't get bored doing the same thing. You started off doing children's television for the BBC. You've obviously done things like Watchdog, the one show you covered for Alex Jones while she was on maternity leave. So, you must love that variety all the time.
Definitely. That's one thing within my job. No 2 days are the same. So you can't get bored. At the same time, it always keeps you on your toes. You definitely, with my kind of job, I think you definitely couldn't have an ego in this game, because a lot of the time, it's almost like you're a beginner again. Like, you build up skills, obviously, over the years that you can transfer to so many different things, but then you are put in brand new environments all the time. When I started doing radio remotely for 5 Live, I got in and I was thinking, how do I do this? Because there's no one there that you could just kind of call upon. And if I had a technical problem, it's not like somebody can come and help me out, because we have to be socially distanced. So it's kind of, you almost feel like it's your first day back at school, kind of starting again, thinking, oh no, how's this going to work? But you're right, the variety for me is something that I really enjoy. And before I even started presenting, I worked in TV production, so I was behind the camera, which was really interesting, kind of having that take on how to script a program, how to come up with ideas, dealing with agents, dealing with contributors, dealing with presenters, dealing with ego. And the media industry as a whole, as you know, is such a creative industry, and it moves with the times. And the program, the last TV program that I just did was Health Check UK Live, which was basically kind of turned around within the space of 10 days, and it was very much in reaction to obviously the pandemic. And that's what, you know, when I finished that show, I just thought, isn't it amazing that you can be within an industry that something's going on in our society, in our world, and with an amazing team you can create content that reflects that and give people a platform for conversation. So to be involved in that, and that's ever changing. So, you know, as I said, you can't get bored because it's constantly on the move. It definitely keeps you on your toes, for sure.
And I mean, for you, where did the interest in working in the media come from? I mean, how did you know that that was where you wanted to take your career?
That's a really good question. Well, when I was at school, I studied psychology at A level, and I've always been interested in people. I've always been fascinated by human behavior. You know, what makes us behave in certain ways? What are our triggers? And how does society change us? And within my family, my mum is a life coach. My grandfather is from Ghana, and he was chief of a small tribe in Ghana. And his role was almost kind of like a psychologist, dealing with people's problems, listening to people, being able to communicate. So I feel like on the one hand, it's something that's kind of flowed through my grandfather and through my mum, that kind of itch, if you will, to always want to find out what's going on and connect with people. And then I studied psychology for A level, and then went on to study it as a degree at Manchester Uni, because I really wanted to kind of have that almost scientific basis behind finding people interesting. So it kind of started from there. And actually one of my psychology tutors at the time was, he was a body language expert on Big Brother, when Big Brother had just kind of started, when it was still this almost like social experiment and people went into this house and didn't know how their lives were going to change. So he used to do a lot of my lectures, and he suggested that they had this kind of event where they had industry experts coming in from radio, TV, local television stations. So I went along, and I just remember for the first time feeling so inspired by all these different creative people from across all different aspects of TV and radio, and thinking, actually, this is where I want to be. I want to find out more about this industry. So whilst I was doing my degree, I ended up looking for work experience placements within a local television channel called Channel M, and within a local radio station in Manchester called All FM, and started kind of shadowing different people and finding out about their jobs and what they do. And it just kind of further fueled my interest in that area, and eventually applied for a work experience placement at the BBC within entertainment. And I remember it saying on the website, you know, they experience a high volumes of applications. Don't expect to hear back from us for a good 3 to 4 months. And I was in my third year of uni at the time, coming to the end where I was going to do my dissertation. So I thought, well, if I apply now, if they get back to me and let me know, you know, whether I'm successful for an interview, at least I've got time to finish off my dissertation and everything. They got back within, I think it was like 3 or 4 days, saying, oh, we'd like you to come in for an interview. I don't know whether they just hadn't experienced a high volume of people, but I thought, oh no, what do I do? So I ended up going for the interview and got the 4-week work experience placement, which I was so happy about. But then I was in a pickle because I was still doing my degree. So I remember like frantically going for my lectures at one end of Oxford Road in Manchester, and then running to my work experience placement, doing that, and then going home and literally spending hours on end trying to write my dissertation at the same time. So I ended up like just trying to cram everything in. And even though it was frantic, it was something that I really enjoyed, because I knew that, you know, this was the start of something, and that, you know, I really wanted to continue it. And that's how it kind of started, really.
I mean, the good thing now, obviously having an interest in people, is you get to do, you know, things for the one show where, you know, you can end up with any story really, where you're, you know, investigating, finding out about something. So that must be so fun for you, because you're, I suppose, also learning about, you know, different subjects and all sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. I mean, you almost become, well, not an expert, but you end up having a lot of kind of conversation pointers, you know, because you hear so many different stories, as you say, and meet so many different people. And the One Show is a great, you know, a great vehicle for that. I remember when I first started doing that, I just thought, this is incredible, because it's that type of show where you can be talking about something. I remember reporting on the Manchester bombing, and speaking to victims from the Manchester bomb and how it's affected their life. And it was a powerful, moving interview, you know, talking about the horrific experiences that these people had gone through, and being able to share that, you know, being able to share the importance of that was key. And you know, the One Show gives a platform for those type of stories. As well as that, on the One Show, I was able to do a film with my mum, which was all about the music scene in Manchester, and they were excavating the dance floor of a club that she used to go to as a girl, and how it was a real kind of one of the first clubs where people of all different cultures and ethnicities could go and felt like they were accepted, and didn't feel like they were the subject of racism. So again, that was a real amazing thing for me to do something with a family member that meant so much to us. And then on the other hand, on the One Show, you've got opportunities to sit there and interview the likes of Danny Boyle and Samuel L. Jackson. I remember when he walked in, I just thought, is this really my life? Is this really happening? This is crazy. So there's always, you know, there's always a story on that show. There's always something. And it's almost like at the time, sometimes at the time you don't really think so much about it because you're in job mode, and it's only after the event, and especially I think through lockdown, it's made me reflect on it even more, because you've had the opportunity to kind of step back and think about the different things that you've done, which it's really special. And you know, I do feel really lucky to be able to have had those experiences and share them, you know, share them with other people, because that's what it's all.
And I mean, you get to work with, you know, amazing people. You were obviously co-hosted with Matt Baker for a while, working with people like Matt Allwright, all those sorts of people. And it must be so much fun to work with different people and kind of, I suppose you learn from them, because everyone's got their own way of doing things, and you can kind of take little bits of what they do and kind of put it into what you do.
That is so true. And especially, you know, talking about Matt Baker and Matt Allwright, I mean, Matt Allwright especially, him and I are great friends now. And I remember when I first started on Watchdog, because that was kind of before the One Show, that was my first kind of live peak time BBC studio show, you know, the first kind of big thing really that I did for the BBC. And I remember meeting Matt, and he was just, and still is obviously the nicest person, so generous with his time. And just gave me so much good advice, and also, you know, it made me realize, looking at a presenter, and he's not just a presenter, you know, a broadcaster like him, he is genuinely interested in the work. And I know you've interviewed him, haven't you? He's genuinely interested in the work that he does. You know, he's got a real passion for it. It's not just put on for the cameras. He would be doing the types of jobs that he did regardless of whether it was being filmed or not. And it was really lovely to see that up close, and for me, that's what it was about. It's like, yeah, you can't come into this industry if all you wanting to do is just get your face on the telly and see how many likes or, you know, whatever comments you get on it. It's kind of having that real passion. And so that's always kind of stuck with me in terms of if I do a new program, or, you know, interviewing somebody or researching a particular topic for a show, you know, it's thinking about, what is my take on this? Why do I find this interesting? What questions do you really want to ask? What else could be going on there? Really delving into a subject, which is what Matt is all about. And for Matt Baker, again, starting the One Show, such an amazing program. He was so generous with his time as well. And for him, he gave even little tips like, you know, when you're doing a studio show, don't feel the need to kind of, because sometimes when you're out and about, like if I do Cranbrook Roadshow, you're in, you know, open space, and you feel like you need to project your voice more, Whereas when you're in a studio setting, you're kind of all on the sofa together. And he was like, you can just talk at your normal level and just, you know.
But yeah, I mean, the amazing
Sure.
thing with, you know, for example, Matt Allwright, I mean, he's a local lad to us here. He's only about sort of 3 miles down the road from me. But I mean, when I was interviewing him, he talked about how, particularly with how the Watchdog and the One Show have sort of merged together, he said that as long as the show is still doing what it was set out to do, he'll stick with it. So, I mean, I imagine, you know, when you're getting all these people wanting your help, because I imagine you probably get people on social media who ask for your help with things. It's nice when you can help, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're doing the best you can for them.
Absolutely. You know, and that's testament to Matt Allwright. The things that he does, it's not just about, you know, having your spot or your limelight on the telly, as he said, and you know, it makes total sense that he said that. It's about the work that can be done. So whether that's in the guise of doing it through the One Show or having a standalone program, it's about helping people. And yeah, you know, with the kind of more stuff that you do within the telly or the radio world, you do get more people asking for your help. And as you say, it's about ensuring that you kind of sticking to what you believe in, and what it's important to help with. I do think nowadays with social media, it's great though, because it gives you a real kind of litmus test to what's going on in the world. And, you know, when you do a live program, the reactions to a topic of conversation, a contributor that you've had, a specific story out there straight away for you to see. And it's good it gives you more research, and it gives you that opportunity to really think about, okay, well, how can we affect change with this? What really needs to be done? Because this is what people have been saying about this. This is what's infuriating people. This is what people have really responded to. And that's what with the Health Check show that I did recently, a lot of our content, the majority of our content was fueled by the viewers and what they wanted to hear more of. And the show over the 5-week period really evolved with time. And it's really important to listen to people, because that's what, you know, the media is there for. It's there to, especially like the BBC values, inform, educate, entertain. And with whatever medium you do that, whether it's through kind of, you know, as you say, Watchdog having a slot on Wednesdays within the One Show, whether it's a social media platform, whatever it is, you know, it's so important to us as broadcasters to make sure that the purity of what you're doing is there first and foremost.
I mean, when you started out in your career, was there someone that you looked up to, maybe someone who you were aspiring to be like, or someone that you just thought, you know, they really know what they're doing and I would love that for myself?
You know what, for me growing up, there are a lot of people that I admired as presenters and broadcasters. And I remember when I was a runner within entertainment, I used to work on quiz shows. So I worked on a quiz show. It was a spelling quiz show called Hard Spell, and they did the celebrity version called Star Spell, and that was presented by Eamon Holmes. And I remember that it was kind of like my first show where I'd met somebody that was off the telly, you know. I remember when he first came into the studio, he made an effort with every single person on that floor to know their name, to understand the job that they did, regardless of whether you were the exec producer or whether you were the runner like me making teas and coffees for people. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, you know, there's a difference between someone being a very good PR person and someone who it's within them, that is the essence of who they are. And you realise, going back to again, like with Matt Allwright and Matt Baker, it's important to them, they actually care. And I remember thinking it's not just they are a good presenter, they are a decent human being, they're a well-rounded person. The ego's not, you know, come through the door before they have. And I always looked up to Eamon Holmes as a presenter. And I remember when I first got the job as covering for Alex, you know, I hadn't spoken to Eamon in a while. When I lived up in Manchester, I kind of bump into him now and then because he's a massive Man United supporter. So I remember walking through Windsor with my mum and bumping into him randomly. We had a lovely chat. But I remember when I first got the job for the One Show, he messaged me to say, Michelle, I just want to say biggest congratulations to you. I remember you when you started out within entertainment as a runner. You followed your dreams, and you know that they came true, and good for you for persevering. And I thought that's, you know what, all the things that I thought about him as a presenter and a broadcaster, I just thought he didn't need to do that. And I just thought it was a really lovely thing and a mark of him as a person. But what also I would say for me growing up, I didn't see many people that looked like me, or you know, when I was growing up, there weren't many mixed race or kind of black presenters that I could really look at and think. June Sarpong was someone that I really admired as a presenter, but I could probably count them on one hand, if that, you know. And I remember when I first started presenting, it was tricky, especially times within CBBC, because I wear my hair in a different way, and you know, having braids or afro hair within broadcasting is still, as a black person, it's still a difficult area for some broadcasters. And I remember being told when I was being auditioned for a kids show that my hair's a bit too confusing for the audience, and you shouldn't wear it that way. You should try and straighten it to make it look, you know, more of a European look. And I think growing up for me, trying to kind of spot role models in terms of, oh, that person reminds me of myself a bit. Oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. There's probably more of a lack of that, you know. So I think it's, especially with the Black Lives Matter campaign, it's important for us to, you know, to be supporting that, and to be, it's great to see more diversity in the industry, because the more diversity you have, the more, you know, the better representation you've got of everybody's voice, which is what we need.
And I mean, hopefully, there'll be people maybe watching this that will kind of see kind of your story and think, oh, well, I can do it too. And hopefully you'll inspire people, the next generation.
And I think that's really important. I really hope so. I really do hope so. And you know, even from working in CBBC, it's lovely because kids are just so honest, you know, and sometimes you'll just get kids coming up to you. And I remember one time this kid actually saying, oh, I remember seeing you, I can't remember what program they said. It was like either All Over the Place or one CBBC show that I did. And she said, oh, I remember seeing you on the telly. You did this, this, and this. And I said, yeah. I said, so did you enjoy it? And she said, no, not really. And just ran off. I thought, you know what? At least you've just been so honest. And it's just refreshing. And she came up and she wanted to have a chat, and she felt confident enough to do that and went off again. But no, it's important to, you know, the things that I do, I really hope that it can inspire other people moving forward, and you know, that we have a good representation in the industry, and more people bring their stories, bring their personality, because every single person's got a different take on their style, and it's lovely to be able to kind of, it's changed so much over the years, hasn't it? Especially what defines a kind of classic presenter. I mean, in years gone by, especially on the BBC, you would only have a certain type of accent, you know, and now we have so many regional accents, and it's just important to progress that going forward. And the more that we have that, the more people that are watching TV or listening to radio feel like they can identify with that and part of it.
Well, I mean, you have had an amazing career, but is there a dream? Is there something that you would love to do going forward?
For me, you know, it's an interesting one, because I get asked that question a lot in terms of like, what would be your ultimate goal, or what's the kind of end plan? And for me, it's actually enjoying, I feel like, so when I first started in this industry, the first goal was, you know, getting a work experience placement at the BBC. Then it was becoming staff in the BBC. Then it was becoming a researcher on Blue Peter. Then it was, starting to do presenting. And when I reflect on all those things, I think, well, you managed to achieve all those things and did really well at them. But one thing that I look back and think I should have done more of is actually enjoy the journey and enjoy the process of doing it. So for me, if there was going to be an end goal as such. It would actually be kind of reverting that and enjoying what I'm doing now, enjoying the variety, and doing more of that, doing more of what I'm doing and keeping it interesting, meeting different people. The main thing is doing shows that matter, you know, that have a purpose and can affect change and help people. I really love live TV. That's my real kind of thing, and live radio as well. But live TV for me is something that really kind of, you've got to be so in the moment. You can't be thinking, did I put the washing on this morning? Or, oh, I must call my mate back because, you know, I've not spoken to her for a while. You've got to be so engaged in it. And for me, that's actually when I feel my calmest, because you are so present, you're so engaged, you're listening to every word that's coming out of somebody's mouth. And as well as that, you're so switched on because you've got to be focused on timings and what's coming up next. So for me, it would be continuing to do that, because it makes me happy, and I feel like it, you know, it can have a difference depending on the nature of the show. It will be continuing what I'm doing and doing more of it, and most importantly, enjoying the process, making sure that, you know, you can very much enjoy the moment. And again, this is something that lockdown has taught me, because it's so easy when you're busy here, there and everywhere to forget about that, and not taking the time to actually think, hold on a minute, I'm really enjoying whatever that is for anybody, because life's so short. Do you know what I mean? And it's really important to take those moments and really cherish them and enjoy them.
Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me. But before we go, is there any messages you'd like to give to anyone in hospital who's listening, or anyone who's watching online?
Oh, you know what? I just want to say I'm sending all my love. And like I just said there, it's really important to remain in the present. Keep focused, keep happy. And one thing that I do, especially if I'm feeling stressed or a bit down, is go through the day and think about that moment where somebody or something made you smile. Because sometimes it's so easy to forget those little moments in a day, in an hour, you know, during a lunch break, where somebody made you smile or something made you smile. So I'd encourage everybody listening to do that, because it can really make a difference to your day. So yeah.
Now, I just want to say, Michelle, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Keep safe, of course, and thanks again for your time.
Oh, thanks so much. It's been great chatting to you.